Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome back because today I'm going to give you guys my review on the newest movie to come out of the Rocky franchise, Creed 3. It is directed by Michael B. Jordan as he makes his directorial debut with this movie, and it stars Michael B. Jordan once again as Adonis Creed, Tessa Thompson, Jonathan Majors, Wood Harris, and many more. And if you are a Marvel fan like me, the first thing you're going to think of is this movie is basically Killmonger versus Kang the Conqueror.
I must depart.
I'm kidding. That's just the Marvel fan in me, of course. This is Creed 3, the third movie in the Creed trilogy and the 9th overall installment in the Rocky franchise. Let me know down below in the comments section, what are your thoughts on Creed 3? I'd love to know that down below in the comment section. And with that said, let's get started. Creed 3 follows Adonis Creed, who is thriving in both his family life and career after his retirement from the ring. However, when Damian Anderson, a childhood friend and former boxing prodigy, resurfaces after so much time in prison, he's eager to show that he deserves a chance in the ring. However, the face-off between these two is more than just a fight, and Adonis Creed must come back into the ring to settle the score. Over the past 2 weeks, I was able to watch the entire Rocky franchise for the very first time, and with the exception of Rocky 5, I love the Rocky series. The first Rocky movie is fantastic. Love the second movie. The third and fourth movies are very fun movies, and I loved Rocky Balboa and both Creed movies. So watching the franchise made me so eagerly excited to see Creed 3 now that I got the chance to watch it recently. And after all the hype surrounding the movie with the great trailers and marketing this movie had, I had so much hope that Creed 3 was going to be another strong movie within both the Creed trilogy and the Rocky franchise. So now that I have seen Creed 3, I loved it. It's a strong third chapter to the Creed trilogy and makes an excellent directorial debut for Michael B. Jordan. Not only is Michael B. Jordan continuing to be a great actor and really good as Adonis Creed, he can also direct, because this is one of the most unique and stylized movies in the Rocky franchise of all time. He really wasn't lying when he said this movie was inspired by anime, because a lot of the boxing and fight sequences, they were inspired by it, and they look incredible. It brings a whole new flair and uniqueness to the movie and makes it really stand out amongst all the other movies to come out of the Creed trilogy and Rocky movies. And Michael B. Jordan really has just shown he is a very capable and competent director with this movie, how he's able to still be the lead star of the movie and also be the director of this too. It is astonishing, and I would love to see him direct more movies, even if it's a Creed 4 down the line, if he wants to do that, because like after Sylvester Stallone has directed 4 out of 6 of the Rocky movies, and now Michael B. Jordan has done the same thing here, this is just so cool to see him direct the movie, because he does a fantastic job as director Creed 3 with bringing a new style and flair to the series with Creed 3, and it really pays off well for me. The acting from the whole crew is very good, especially with Michael B. Jordan as Adonis Creed, as we see him in this new phase of life where he's retired. He's now living the life he's wanted until Damian is resurfaced, and now he knows what he has to do, all the stuff that rises because of it. And Tessa Thompson as Bianca Taylor. This is by far my favorite performance from her out of the entire trilogy. I really liked her here. But Jonathan Majors, he is continuing to be one of the greatest actors of the last couple of years. He is phenomenal as Damian Anderson. Not only does he play one of the greatest villains to come out of the Rocky franchise, but there's a layer to him that's just so nuanced and just sympathetic to him, to where we understand why he's doing this. He wants to get his shot in the ring despite being in prison for such a long time, and how it gives us this worldview of his where we see how Adonis Creed sees things, but also how Damian sees things. And it made for a really compelling story between these two characters who started out as childhood friends, and then he came back into his life to knowing they're going to have to fight one another. And throughout the whole movie, Jonathan Majors is just excellent. He's electrifying. He just shines every time he is on screen. And I loved him as Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania last month. He is on a whole other level here as Damian, because Jonathan Majors is phenomenal as Damian Anderson. That side of the movie I absolutely love, and I cannot wait to see what Jonathan Majors does next, because he is a force to be reckoned with. This movie also does something very different with the Rocky franchise by having a story about Adonis Creed, who's retired from the ring, and he's just training people, living his life as a father, and we really see a new side of things. And how this movie shakes things up is really good, because you get a lot of time with Damian Anderson exploring his character and his worldview of everything, while also trying to balance that with Adonis Creed, where it's like, what is he going to do in the situations that he is currently in? And just having themes of facing your past, because of how Damian's return brings to light all these other things that happened in Adonis's life back then, and how it just complicates everything about his life today. And just how does he face it, embrace what truly is the present with all the stuff that happened back then. Really strong story. It does a lot of new things with the Rocky franchise that I really appreciate now that it's the 9th installment. And with how it was executed, I really liked a lot of these storylines, and so as what Michael B. Jordan was able to do with it, because he's now a director for this installment in the franchise. This movie also serves as a family drama. Not only is it a movie about boxing, but the family drama is what this movie is, first and foremost. This movie has some of the most emotional scenes out of the Creed trilogy, with him as a father, him as a husband, and a lot of the choices that he has to make because of the return of Damian, and in light of all the things that are going on, and how that's done, I was a fan of. I really liked how we see the emotional core of these scenes, because it really shows how we've seen him grow. He's now out of Rocky's shadow, and what he does throughout the movie, make the choices that he has to make in order to get to where he ends up being by the end of the movie. Really satisfying stuff. Even if it gets a little too dramatic at points, and I wanted more of certain things, I really liked the family drama aspect of Creed 3 first and foremost, and it continues to show why the Creed trilogy is a really strong trilogy, with each movie having an emotional core that lands, has a lot of inspiring and heartfelt moments. As I mentioned earlier, this movie has really stylized boxing fight sequences, because we see slow motion, new camera angles that we haven't really seen been done before in these movies, and you really feel the weight behind everything that happens, where a character can get punched and you just see in slow motion everything that is happening between both characters, and it really makes you feel the agony and the pain these characters are going through, and it makes it even more exciting, to where these movies have always been very realistic, and this one's no different. There's just a new, unique flair to it that I think is really good, to really shake up the Rocky formula, shake things up for what we usually expect from these movies, and it's paid off so well. The sequences in the movie are very cool, and I'm happy they did something really different with Creed 3 in terms of having a different kind of fight sequences, where they're very much inspired by anime. The punches have a weight to it, just like they do before, but with a flair to it, with vibrant colors, slow-mo, and I really dug a lot of the new choices that were made from how they do the fight sequences. Whether they're going to continue that with the series going forward, if we get a Creed 4, up in the air, but I really like a lot of the stylized choices they made with the boxing sequences in Creed 3. Another thing about the Rocky movies and the Creed trilogy that I love are the montages and the score. Every time I watch one of the Rocky movies, whenever there's a montage of seeing like Adonis Creed or Rocky Balboa get better and train for the big fight, it's so inspiring and motivating, and just seeing them become like the champions, it's always so awesome to see them train with the iconic scores in the background that make it even more exciting and memorable. And while Creed 3 does have really solid montages and a score, It's the weakest of the trilogy. I don't think the score of this movie is quite as memorable or as up to par as what Ludwig Göransson did with the previous two Creed movies, where I could watch the boxing sequences or the training montages for the first two Creed movies, and Ludwig always does something that's memorable and it fits with what is going on with the movie. It has some really iconic themes, and even the new letter motif with Adonis Creed. And in Creed 3, they're still very good, but they're not as memorable as in the other two Creed movies. They don't have as much of that same punch or pull the way the other two movies did. And I know Ludwig Göransson didn't do the score for this movie because he's working on Oppenheimer, and I'm hoping the Oppenheimer score really is that good for him to not be working on either this or Mandalorian Season 3. But the score here is good for what it is, but it's easily my least favorite score to come out of the Creed trilogy. And while the montages are really solid and great stuff that I like from these movies, it's also consisting of my least favorite montages to come out of the Creed trilogy. And adding to that, the movie is very well paced throughout. It is an hour and 56 minutes, making it the shortest installment in the trilogy, but there are dramatic moments that happen. It's a really big thing, but we don't get much exploration of it beyond that certain point in the movie. And I would have liked more scenes where the characters take in what just happened and have more characters deal with the aftermath of that scene, that decision that is made. But it feels like we kind of rushed to get to that third act very quickly, where I was watching it, and when it hits the third act, I was like, oh, that was very quick. It feels like I wanted more time with the characters to deal with the situations at hand before we get to the jump to the big climax of the movie. And in Creeds 1 and 2, I think there were a better job of having these sequences and emotional moments play out realistically before we get to the big climax. In this one, it's like there's the scenes, heartbreaking moments, but then I sit there thinking, I wanted more of it. I want more time with the characters to process these things, and just certain plot beats where things happen, but I sit there wondering, would it really play out this way though? Is this realistic? Would this really have happened if that's the end result of it? And so some of those things that'll stick out in my mind a little bit when I was watching the movie. Adding to that, this is also the very first movie in the Rocky franchise to not have Sylvester Stallone appear as Rocky Balboa. Watching these movies over the last 2 weeks, Rocky Balboa has become one of my favorite film characters in history. I love him so much, the story he's went on. But if you are somebody that loves Rocky Balboa so much, you could be very disappointed in Creed 3 because he doesn't appear in it at all. There's a mention of him in the movie, but nothing too major. And there are two sequences in the movie where I could have imagined Rocky Balboa could have or should have been in the scene. But as somebody that loves the character and just keeping in mind the controversies that happened between him and the producer Irwin Winkler with the handling of the Rocky franchise, I thought the movie managed to do fine without Rocky Balboa's involvement, because we're seeing Adonis Creed now his own man out of the retirement and doing his own thing now that he's the center of the trilogy, the center of this movie now. It's a bummer that Sylvester Stallone couldn't return as Rocky because of how iconic and amazing his character is and how much I love that character. But I was thankfully able to still enjoy the movie despite the absence of Rocky Balboa. So however you feel about Rocky's involvement in the movie just not being a thing, that could affect your enjoyment of Creed 3 just a bit, because he doesn't show up in this at all. It's the very first movie in the series for him to not show up in. But for me, I adore the character of Rocky Balboa, and for the most part, I was able to watch the movie and think that as much as I love him, he doesn't have as much of a reason to really be in this movie, and I actually don't feel that upset that he wasn't in it, despite the controversies surrounding the movie, especially because Creed 2 wrapped up his story on a really strong note to where if that was the last time I saw Rocky Balboa, I would be satisfied with it. But if he does come back, I would be totally happy to see that happen. All in all, I loved Creed 3. It delivers on all the hype there was surrounding the movie. Michael B. Jordan once again shows he is a capable director that brings in one of the most unique looking installments in the Creed trilogy and the Rocky franchise as a whole, with Jonathan Majors delivering an all-star performance as Damian Anderson. And it once again captures everything I love about these movies and continues to show why the Rocky franchise is one of the greatest film franchises of all time. And I very much love the way it wraps up the Creed trilogy. So in the end, I'm going to give Creed 3 an A. Definitely go check out Creed 3 in the theaters if you are a fan of the Creed trilogy and the Rocky franchise. This is another worthy installment to the franchise that does something new, tells a new story with Adonis Creed where he is front and center with one of the best antagonists to come out of the franchise with Damian Anderson. And I really love the family drama, the boxing aspect of it, as we see Adonis Creed balance his life as a father, as a family man, and as a man coming out of retirement as he goes back into the ring once again. So I love this movie. I love the franchise, and I'm so happy I got into it now because these movies are very good. And I hope you guys will check out Creed 3 when you can in theaters. So yeah, that's my review for Creed 3. What are your thoughts on the movie? Let me know down below in the comment section. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Stay tuned for some upcoming videos I have planned very soon. We're going to have Scream 6 next week, and I'm so excited for the next Scream movie. It looks really good. I'm going to have a review for that coming up soon when I see the movie, so please go stay tuned for all that fun stuff coming right very soon because March is a very stacked month, and I am excited. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below, so please go do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button. And stay tuned for more.
Go!